Ladies and gentlemen, if you've been in the crypto space for any period of time, you might know who Benjamin Cowen is. He's got 780,000 subscribers on YouTube, making him one of the most subscribed to YouTube channels in the cryptocurrency space. He's a very respected analyst. I respect him as an analyst, and this video is probably going to stir up my community a little bit because I know a lot of my community respects him as an analyst as well. But I'm going to be debunking Benjamin Cowen today. He's recently made a video, right, where he's got 78,000 views, the most views he's got in a video in about a month, where he predicts 110K Bitcoin in Q4 2025. I don't necessarily disagree with the number, but I severely disagree with the predictive methods he's used. I've got 6 major problems to outline, and in this video, I will be debunking Benjamin Cowen. Let's get into it. Guys, before we get into the video itself today, check out the Bitget exchange. It has a trading promotion / trading competition right now with this 20 Apple Watches, 10 iPhone 15s, 5 Apple family sets, and 1 Rolex up for grabs by using trading volume. So they'll track your trading volume and send you those rewards if you complete the certain requirements there. And then also the Bingx exchange has a trading competition right now for November with 500,000 USDT up for grabs as well. Both of those exchanges, you can sign up using my referral link in the description below, and you get a 15% trading fee discount for life on those exchanges, so you can save thousands of dollars over the long term there. Do that if you're interested. Let's get into the content. Alright guys, so today, as I mentioned in the introduction and in the title, I'm going to be debunking Benjamin Cowen. Now, debunking is perhaps a bit of a strong word for what I'm doing today. It's more I'm just pointing out problems. I'm not necessarily completely against what he's saying. Now, I'm speaking about this video specifically over here. It's titled Bitcoin Logarithmic Regression Rainbow. It was posted 6 days ago. It's got the most views on any video he's done for quite a long period of time, about a month, probably more than that. So it is his most popular video as of recent, and it's the video that's gained the most attention for that reason. Obviously, it's got the most views. And basically what he discusses in the video is this. Now, I want you to go ahead, if you question what I'm saying here, go ahead and fact check me and watch the video he's made. But essentially, I'm just going to summarize what he said for the sake of not getting, I don't know how it works, copyright strike or something like that, or for the sake of not just sitting here for 40 minutes trying to get to the main, points of what he's saying. What he says in this video is essentially that Bitcoin has, and he's not wrong in saying this kind of, you can overlay, I should say, a logarithmic regression band, right? A logarithmic regression channel of some sort. He calls it a rainbow, right? Essentially, it's this kind of curved, right, line kind of channel thing that has multiple aspects, multiple layers, and Bitcoin kind of interacts between each layer as support and resistance, and each cycle it's reaching a different level on this logarithmic regression rainbow. And he makes the claim that, as you can see in 2011, 2013, 2017, 2021, the bull markets we've had historically on Bitcoin, in the first bull market, it reaches the top of the whole rainbow itself. In the second one, it reaches 2.5 levels down from the top, and then it goes 2.5 levels down from the top again in 2017, and 2.5 levels down from the top again in 2021. So the kind of theory that he says, and the trend that he's identifying, is basically each cycle, each bull market Bitcoin has, it reaches a peak in that bull market 2.5 levels down on the rainbow logarithmic regression band than it did the cycle before. And with this information, we can hence predict, or at least observe, that Bitcoin is going to reach around 100K. Okay, a bit over 100K in Q4 2025. So Benjamin Cowen believes in the 4-year cycle. He believes in the 4-year cycle theory. He thinks that, like myself, Bitcoin is going to reach a top in Q4 2025. That is just an observation of an existing trend. If you don't believe that, you are not aware of the existing trend. The 4-year cycle is not a theory, it is a trend. And basically, based on the 4-year cycle, cyclically speaking, Bitcoin is likely to reach a price top in Q4 of 2025. That is true. And so, with this said, and applying logarithmic regression rainbow that Benjamin Cowen has to this, you can predict around 100 and something. I think he said 104K, maybe 110K in Q4 2025. It's a bit rough, but that's what he said, okay? So on the surface, that doesn't sound too ridiculous, but I've got 6 problems with this, and I know six is a pretty large number, so we're going to work our way through the problems I have with this. I'm going to show you bits and pieces of the video, and I'm going to show you exactly why I think this is an incorrect way of looking at Bitcoin, and why I think that, as I said, this analytical method, this indicator in itself, is an ineffective way to predict the Bitcoin price in the future for various reasons, and why I don't think it's a sustainable thing to do at all. I don't think the indicator is sustainable, and I think all in all, if you are following this logic, if you are following the logic of taking this seriously, this video and this analysis seriously, you're essentially saying that the future is completely uncertain for Bitcoin past 2025, which is not true by the analysis we have on Bitcoin. So I'm going to go through my 6 problems one by one. Let's get into it. Okay, so I'm about to show you a 30-second clip for my first problem with Benjamin Cowen's claims, and my first problem is this. The 2.5 levels down each cycle on the logarithmic regression rainbow, which is fundamental to his prediction of 100k-ish by Q4 2025. In fact, it's the whole basis of his prediction, is not a clean trend. Let's look into it.
It was sort of interesting because it seemed like we deviated from the 2.5 log line trend line, or 2.5 log line trend, because you can see we went down 1, 2, and then that's where we hit our April top. So I was sort of thinking like maybe it was no longer valid. But what's interesting is that we came back down, put in a higher high that ended up being exactly 2.5 log lines down.
So he literally just admitted in this kind of analysis he just did there for 30 seconds that this trend is not clean, because he admitted that in the first peak of 2021, right, 2021 is known as a double top cycle basically, in the first peak of 2021, we actually surpassed the expectations that he is using as the very foundation of his predictive method for predicting that Bitcoin is going to top out at the specific band that he's predicting it will do, which is the basis of his entire 104k prediction. He is basically saying, he's admitting that it was not a clean retest of what was meant to happen. It's not a clean version of what was meant to happen, even though the end result in the actual November top of 2021 ended up being consistent. The fact of the matter is we surpassed where we were meant to go, and therefore this trend is no longer quite clean. So that's the first problem. If you're going to use a trend, it has to be clean, right? The fact that this trend has shown that it has some inconsistencies in the past, even though it ended up topping where it needed to top, the fact that we went higher before then shows that this trend is not clean. How do we know where Bitcoin is going to top? Because look, his whole basis of his prediction for 100k-ish in Q4 2025 is we're going to top out at this band. Now, if we did what we did in 2021, we could surpass that level and then go down and top out in that band later. But the fact of the matter is we still surpassed that level. So, you know, you can't have a trend that's built on inconsistencies. Now, I know this trend has worked in the past, but let's be real for a second, right? Ben is actually looking at you know, 4 different bull markets, right? One was here, this is valid, this is valid. This one was inconsistent, as he's just admitted, and this one was pre-halving. So the whole basis of the 4-year cycle, and the whole basis of a Q4 2025 top prediction is built on the 4-year cycle. The 4-year cycle was started by the halving. This data point back here in 2011 is basically invalid for that reason, right? These ones are correct, and this one has a lot of doubt and uncertainty about it. Now, as you know, we need 3 data points in order to make an effective trend. We only have 2 effective data points, and one of which is very, very gray area, very, very murky. So I would not say at all that Ben's foundational predictive formulas for predicting a 100 and something K Bitcoin, low 100k Bitcoin in Q4 2025 based on this logarithmic regression rainbow are very effective at all, or very trustworthy at all. So I would say he's actually admitted in this analysis here in the last 30 seconds that this is not a clean trend, and therefore we can't take it as seriously as he seems to be taking it. That's problem 1. Let's move on to problem 2. Now, problem 2 is kind of an extension of problem 1. He's assuming, right, that we're going to maintain the status quo in the sense that each cycle we're going to move down 2.5 bands, right, per each cyclical peak on his specific logarithmic regression rainbow chart. But that's an assumption of the status quo, and he says that that needs to happen because of diminishing returns, but I don't think he's fully recognizing that diminishing returns can still occur even if we go higher or lower on the logarithmic regression band that he has on the screen right now, right? The logarithmic regression band that he's predicting is to be the bull market top is the one we're on currently in blue. I know this is very hard to keep track of because I don't actually have the chart he's showing on the screen right now, but I'm just going to try and simplify it as best as I can. He is expecting Bitcoin to top out at around 100 and I think it's 104k, he said, in 2025, right? Q4 2025. It doesn't actually matter what the exact number is because I have problems with the predictive method itself. But the fact of the matter is, we can go higher than that and still maintain diminishing returns. All we need to do to maintain diminishing returns on Bitcoin, right, and hence be consistent with his logic of what needs to happen, is achieve a gain, right, of less than 255% from peak to peak. right? Or you could look at it a different way from bottom to top, right? So for example, bottom to top in the last cycle was 2,000%. As long as we get less than 2,000% gain from bottom to top, which could be anything less than 320k on Bitcoin, we still have diminishing returns. So another foundational kind of, I guess you could say, foundational component of the logic behind him predicting that this indicator and this trend is going to be consistent and true in the future is that Bitcoin has to see diminishing returns, but Bitcoin is still going to see diminishing returns even if it goes up to 300k. I'm not saying it's going to do that. I'm just saying we can go very high while maintaining diminishing returns, so it's not really a valid piece of information. So he's kind of saying that Bitcoin is going to maintain the status quo and keep doing what he has identified to be a trend, even though we've established in our first point that that trend is actually weak and speculative, more speculative than he's admitted to. And in our second point right now, he's also assuming that Bitcoin is going to maintain the status quo in alignment with that trend because we have to see diminishing returns, but the bounds of diminishing returns are actually much larger than he's making the assumption they are. Or at least what he's indicating they are in using this predictive method. Now, I don't have his chart, okay? I'll admit that I don't have his chart because it's paid, but I want you to see what he's got on the screen right now. So, as I said before, he's predicting that each cycle, right, the peak is going to be 2.5 bands lower than the previous peak, okay? So, he's expecting the peak to be where his cursor is on the screen right now. That's the band that the peak should be at. Now, this leads me to my third problem, right? There's actually two problems with this, but my third problem is this, and I'll go into my fourth problem in a second. My third problem is, this is all well and good for the next cycle, okay? We could go to this blue band in the next cycle. That could be our peak, sure. But if we go 2.5 bands down further for the next cycle, because the 4-year cycle is a trend, right? We can't really predict its end. That's not how it works. The trend is your friend until it ends. We don't know when it's going to end. But if we assume that it's going to work this cycle and we're going to top out at this peak he has his cursor on right now, at this band he has his cursor on, that means in the next cycle we should go 2.5 bands below that, and if we go 2.5 bands below that in the next cycle, we would be out of his rainbow regression logarithmic, whatever the hell it's called, right? We would be out of his logarithmic trend. We would be out of this indicator. The indicator would not make sense anymore because the price will have deviated below it. So what this indicates to us is this trend is unsustainable. At some point it has to break, so why can't it break now? Especially given the fact we have the cracks in it that we've seen in problem 1 of this video, in the fact that it's unsustainable, in the fact that in 2021 it was messy, for example. But, the fundamental point I'm making in problem 3 here is that if we are moving 2.5 bands down every single cycle, we cannot do that again past this cycle because there's simply not that many bands remaining. Now, I'm going to let Ben explain problem 4 that I have because he actually admits to this problem, but he has a solution to it. I'm not overly convinced by the solution. Let's look into it.
The issue right now is that 2.5 log lines down from where this peak was puts you half, 1, 2. It puts you at this logarithmic regression trend line, which...
So as you just said, the peak in the next cycle should be at the logarithmic trend line that we're already testing, right? It's already at 46k. Now, his solution is this.
Different. And we can actually project this out here on the website. So if you were to go look at the website, that's this trend line. So by late 2025, that would correspond to just north of 100k, right?
So basically he's saying that although we're testing the logarithmic band that we're meant to be topping out on basically right now, almost right now, and although we're on top of it, which we've never done before, by the way, which is another inconsistency in this trend, it should get high enough that in Q4 2025, when we're expecting the bull market top, it will be at around 104k, and therefore it is reasonable to assume, according to him, that we could see a regular cycle, even though we're testing the band right now. But the problem with this is that we are expecting, as per 4-year cycle as well, that Bitcoin does certain things right next year and the year after. And one of those things, as we've discussed very extensively in the past, is we're expecting Bitcoin to reach an all-time high, okay, in around or before November 2024. Now, according to Ben's indicator, okay, his rainbow logarithmic regression indicator that he's got on the screen that he's been showing us this entire video, according to that indicator, we would still be riding the top band that we're meant to be topping out in 2025 into late 2024, and so we wouldn't really see, based on that logic, we wouldn't really see any explosive kind of bull market on Bitcoin, which is not consistent with what we have seen historically, right? What I'm trying to say, it's very hard to explain this point because I don't actually have this chart available on my screen, but what I'm trying to say is that we are already at the band, basically, that we're meant to be peaking out in Q4 2025. Yes, that band is moving upwards gradually, and yes, it will get to a point in which it's going to be at around 104k in Q4 2025, but Bitcoin is also meant to be moving upwards gradually at this point in the cycle, and Bitcoin is meant to be reaching 69k, so 70k, sorry, in November 2024, a full year before the 2025 peak. If Bitcoin's at 70k in November 2024, and we still have a full year before the Q4, before the 2025 peak, surely we can assume it's going to very easily get to 100k, and if that happens, then it will just be riding up with the band the entire time, and there will be no really explosive bull market. It would just be a market of gradual returns, not really traditional bull market like we've seen before. And if the whole basis of your predictive method relies on traditional bull markets occurring, which it does, right? It relies on the 4-year cycle. And if we understand that traditional bull markets are very explosive generally in nature, not gradual, then how can we be confident in this trend? Because we're using too many counterintuitive presuppositions to form it. I don't know if that makes sense. It makes sense to me. I guess you're just gonna have to roll with it. We have a few more problems to get into. Now, problem 5 actually has nothing to do with Ben's kind of predictive method itself. It has something to do with logarithmic regression bands in general. Guys, we have seen these logarithmic regression bands over and over again in different formats with different kind of predictive methods, with different trajectories. For example, we had the Valero logarithmic regression band, which was very popular in the last cycle, okay? And this was the logarithmic regression band that people like Plan B, for example, used to predict 300k Bitcoins on, right? So that's one of them, and it failed miserably. We went actually below the entire indicator itself, and obviously it's not relevant anymore. We also had another one here, as you can see, by someone called Dark, okay, and this one is currently still present, still active. It's got thousands of uses on TradingView. I saw many analysts use this one in the last cycle again, where we reached previously the upper band in both 2013 and 2018. People thought we were going to reach the upper band again in 2021. There was no reason to believe we weren't going to do that, and that would have made Bitcoin about 104k in 2021, or actually higher, 140k in 2021. I was actually looking at this band in the last cycle as well, although it didn't work, right? Because these logarithmic regression bands are not sustainable, and so now it's completely irrelevant because we have no trend forming on it. And then we had a third one down here that I remember seeing on crypto Twitter as well, and this is similar to the first one we showed you, and this has thousands of uses on Telegram, on TradingView, sorry, and I've seen things similar to this before. And the fact of the matter is, on this band, there was a trend forming, just like on the one on Ben's screen right now. There was a trend forming. People thought it was going to work. It did work to a certain extent, but now, just like the one on Ben's screen, it's unsustainable, and we've dropped below the entire rainbow band itself, and now it's irrelevant. So there's 3 examples, right, of the most popular, these are the most popular logarithmic rainbow regression bands on TradingView, all of which are no longer valid to any extent, because eventually these types of indicators have to be invalidated due to the way the market moves, and due to diminishing returns, and due to the fact that none of them are based on any sustainable sort of historical trend on Bitcoin in relation to cyclical structure. Now, I want to make something very clear, and I've made this clear over and over again in the past. I'm going to make it clear again. 4-year cycle, right, which is the underlying trend that is present on any type of cyclical prediction that Bitcoin will ever have. The 4-year cycle is purely, at this point, only useful for date range predictions. It is not useful for price point predictions. It is not useful for structural predictions. So when people like Benjamin Cowen, and I'm not trying to throw shade, but when he comes here with these kind of trends that try to predict the exact price point, okay? The fact of the matter is that goes against the maths we have. I know he's a maths guy, but it goes against the maths we have. The trends we have right now are only strong in relation to date ranges. They're not strong in relation to percentage return per cycle. They're not strong in relation even to predicting the percentage decrease in return from a diminishing returns perspective per cycle. We simply have not seen enough data yet. That is why my personal prediction for Q4 2025 is between, I think, 97k and 187k or something like that. Let me actually bring it up on the screen right now. I forget the exact numbers, but I've got a very, very broad prediction, right? And it's broad for a reason. It's broad because we don't have the data to make it narrow. I'm being intellectually honest, right? My prediction is 103k to 197k in October 2025. I can be relatively confident in saying it's going to be October 2025. I can be relatively confident in the actual date of the top, but I can't be confident in the price of the top. That's why I've got a 90,000 USD range there. Now, I've said before, I'll say it again. when the halving occurs, and when I see the price of Bitcoin at the halving in April, I will probably be able to narrow down that prediction to probably a 30,000 US dollar range, and then we can actually, have a degree of utility around that, because right now it's a little bit too broad. But the fact that it's broad means that I'm showing you there's not enough evidence for it to be any more precise, any more narrow. Ben is coming here and he's saying it's going to be an exact price at an exact period of time, and I just don't think that's supported in the charts. I don't think that's supported in the evidence we had. Now, I want to make something very clear as well. I'm not saying that Ben is predicting anything here. He's simply observing a trend, right? I understand that. I'm just poking holes in the trend that he's observing and saying that it's actually not as reliable as he's making it out to be, and it's not as reliable as people are taking it to be, because we've got 78,000 views on his most popular YouTube video in months. So it's very clear that people are taking this very seriously, and I don't think it's at the place in which we should be taking it seriously. And my final point, and I want to make this very clear, this is not a personal jab at Benjamin Cowen. I want to make this clear though. My final point is that people tend to believe, when it comes to YouTubers like Benjamin Cowen, when it comes to people like Crypto Savvy, when it comes to any big YouTuber, really, even myself to an extent, they sometimes fall into the trap of thinking that they can never be wrong. I want you to know that Benjamin Cowen can certainly be wrong. He has been wrong very majorly in the past. For example, over and over again during 2021, he was repeatedly talking about how the cycle was going to lengthen with no historical evidence to indicate that at all, and he was completely dead wrong about that. We made debunking videos at the time. I'll speak about it again. Benjamin Cowen has been wrong in the past, and he's very capable of being wrong in the future, just like myself, just like any other analyst in the space. So I'm not throwing personal shade at him. I'm just saying, don't trust someone just because of their reputation. Reputation doesn't really mean much. Each single predictive formula, each single predictive indicator, strategy, prediction, whatever it may be, observation should be taken individually and should not be influenced by the status of the person that is making the prediction. Each prediction should be analyzed on an individual basis with no bias. And as soon as you start saying, oh, but Wolves of Crypto made the prediction, therefore it must be true, you run into a trap of cognitive bias, and you run into a trap of losing a bunch of money, because that's what's going to happen to you. So Benjamin Cowen is not right because he is Benjamin Cowen. He could be right based on what he is saying. I personally don't think he will be, because I poked multiple holes in this trend, in this predictive method, in these indicators. I want to know what you think. To recap the points I've made, Benjamin Cowen, and I'll just go from the start, Benjamin Cowen is predicting, or observing a trend at least, in which, it's not even a trend, observing an indicator, a speculative indicator that he's created, that predicts basically like I think it's 104K on Bitcoin in Q4 2025. I would say that I have 6 problems with this. The first problem is that it's not a clean trend, as we saw in 2021, and because he's using data points pre-first halving, which actually doesn't add to the validity of a trend at all. In fact, it subtracts from it. And then my second problem was he's assuming that diminishing returns. He's assuming that Bitcoin's going to maintain the status quo in decreasing 2.5 lines on his rainbow logarithmic trend. However, that's purely based on the presupposition that we're going to maintain diminishing returns, but I don't think he's fully understanding the bounds of which diminishing returns can exist. We can see a 300k Bitcoin and still have diminishing returns, for example. Problem 3 is that his log chart makes the inherent claim that the indicator can't be used ever again in 2025 onwards, because to drop 2.5 lines below where it will be in 2025 means we will drop out of existence. There's no more bands below that. So basically it's an unsustainable trend. It can't sustain past 2025, so we shouldn't be taking it too seriously. My fourth problem is Bitcoin is already riding the trend line that we're meant to be topping out on in 2025, and we have evidence to believe that Bitcoin should be going upwards into 2024. And so if we are going to follow his trend, if we are going to follow his indicator, there's no real way we could ever see an explosive Bitcoin bull market, and all we have ever seen is explosive Bitcoin bull markets, and that's the trend. So it's not compatible with the reality of what we've seen historically, is the fourth point. The fifth point is that many log charts have existed before, similar to the one he's pointed out in this video, and they've all failed. And the sixth point is Benjamin Cowen is not correct just because he is Benjamin Cowen. We have to take analysis as a separate entity from the person who was making it. Guys, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I understand this video has been a bit of a word fiesta. It's very hard to articulate some of these points, especially when I don't have his chart on my screen personally. But I hope you've enjoyed it regardless. I hope you found it useful. I just want to, guys, save you guys some money. I don't want you guys to do anything that is sounds good on the surface, but doesn't actually hold up in wake of any criticism. I don't think that the predictions that Ben is making here in regards to his logarithmic regression rainbow indicator hold up at all. I've identified 6 problems in it very easily over like a 30-minute period after watching this video. It's very simple to debunk, and I think I've debunked it to a pretty significant degree today. So guys, check out the VIP group on Telegram if you're interested. You have the information and results group on the screen right now with the payment information. Goes over exactly what you actually get for joining VIP, the free trial information, and the PDF with the trading results, an 80.5% win rate, 130 trades there, 80.5% win rate, very, very good stuff. And if you want to learn how to trade, you want to learn how to analyze charts like myself, you can do so on the Become a Trader 10-unit course. On the Crypto Academy website, you'll find all the information about it. It's a university-style course with slides, worksheets, videos, etc. Go ahead and check it out and throw us an email at cryptoacademycourses@gmail.com, and we'll get back to you with all the relevant information shortly. Guys, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.